Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Education Before Medication podcast. Our goal with this show is to really just introduce you to concepts, information, and ideas that can actually help you take back control of your health. So join us once a month where me, Dr. Maria, and my friend and healthcare expert Tas will be having a conversation about lifestyle medicine and how you can leverage your habits to create powerful change in your health and in your family's health. Hey guys, Dr. Maria here. I just wanted to quickly jump in and let you know that this episode that you're about to listen to was an Instagram live that we did, so the format is a little bit different, but the information in it is as crucial, and we felt called to add this to one of our episodes. So just sit down, relax, and enjoy it.
Yes, another day, another valuable live.
Yes.
So I started introducing that we are going to be talking about dairy.
Mm-hmm. Yes. A controversial topic.
It really is, because I remember growing up with, ever the milk mustache?
Yeah.
Got milk.
Got
milk does a body good.
Milk does a body good. Yeah, that's a big one.
You know what was a huge topic when I became vegan, actually? My parents, they said, the first thing that they said, well, what's going to happen to your bones? What are you going to do? You won't drink milk? Like, it was like my bones would have, like, melted off my skin or something, right? So let's talk about that.
So
go ahead.
It's a good start what you just said. So people really think that dairy is a good source of nutrients because it's marketed as a high source of protein and a high source of calcium, right? Well, it turns out, here's the truth, that even though we try to normalize drinking milk and eating any dairy products for those two particular properties, it's one of the most unnatural foods. And hear me out, it's one of the most unnatural foods for us as human beings to be eating, and also one of the most dangerous ones because it just contains too many components that really promote disease in our body. And that has been shown. Like Dr. Colin Campbell, I'm sure you probably know about him. He kind of revolutionized the whole field when he came out with a China study, and he came out showing academia and to prove himself as well that dairy is in fact very dangerous. He found that consumption of casein, which is 80% of the protein in milk, has a higher correlation with cancer than cigarette smoking has with lung cancer. And that is mind-blowing because people associate lung cancer with smoking, which is real and a fact, but to say that there's a higher correlation than that with dairy and cancer, for me was like the first thing I needed to completely stop. I didn't even need any other facts. I'm like, if this is really true, and I read the China study, I was like, this is something that I need to stop right away, especially I being a researcher in the cancer field, trying to find the cure for cancer, and here I am eating and drinking one of the biggest sources for the development of it. So just that study itself made a huge difference in my life, and I'm sure that maybe if people are hearing it, maybe they're more curious to try to look into it as well. And I just want to say something also really interesting in that study is that the rats that were used in that study, they were fed a diet of around 20%. And 20% these days in our community, in our society, is like super low. Most people are eating way more than 20% as protein in their diet. So that's just to make a comparison. We are eating a lot more protein than that was shown that it's triggering tumors and cancer in rats. So we need to tone that down a lot. Like if you're having a higher quantity of protein than 20% in your diet, for sure you need to go to the lower amount.
Okay, so 20%, these rats, the study was 20% of these rats were given only 20% of dairy.
No, 20%, well, yes, but of protein. So the casein.
The casein, okay. So, and that's a very low amount compared to how much we would have of dairy. Yeah, that itself is mind-blowing.
Mm-hmm. We're eating so much more than the advised amount, and the advised amount is already calculating a little bit extra so that you're not missing out. So people are thinking, for example, the RDA says have at least 20% of 20% of protein in your diet. And people are like, okay, 20% is the minimum. Let me try to have a lot more so I can try to fulfill those needs. But 20% is already more than what you need for most people in the world.
Interesting. You know, like when you're talking about that, you know what flashes I got in my head? Pizza.
What? Pizza.
Pizza, right? When they put the cheese on the pizza, and then they started finding areas in the pizza to add more cheese, like in the crust, and then they would put it at the
Inside the
bottom.
crust.
Yeah, they
Yes.
found other ways. So, I mean, how much percent is that?
I have no idea, but that will be just one of your meals. And then let's count the snacks that you eat, like either just cheese or cookies that has powdered milk in it. You're drinking a glass of milk, you're dipping something in milk. I mean, it makes its way in our diet everywhere. And we're not even
It's
counting.
weighing in our diet.
Oh, let me talk about whey, because whey is one of the biggest marketing strategies that has ever existed in the dairy industry. So whey is the waste product of dairy. Is what you get after you make cheese, after you make yogurt. You get that. And the industry doesn't know what to do with that, and they have a lot more whey than what they produce as cheese and yogurt, because you need a lot more. Yeah, and my point is, whey is the waste product of dairy. And what I mean by that is, like, the industry is not even allowed to just put whey products unfiltered into nature, because it's that toxic for the environment. It kills the soil, it kills the water, the fish in the water. And for people, and now what they're doing is they just packaging into, a bottle, calling it protein, and selling it for human consumption. And we know that it's that incredibly toxic for the environment. What makes us think that we can now add that as a very high nutrient source of protein in our diet? Like, it's going to do exactly the same thing as it's doing to the environment. It's not for you. And going to the whey source for protein is a mistake. You're going in the wrong path. Sorry, path.
And I wanted to talk about, like you were saying, whey is a waste product, margarine as well. That's how margarine, a canola oil, all of these things, that's how it all began.
It's
They're
just
all waste products.
completely transformed fats. Makes no sense to buy these things. Yeah. But whey, it's a mistake. And once I also realized that whey was a waste product of dairy, and they couldn't even put it into nature because it was that toxic. I'm like, why are people putting this in their bodies and accepting it? Like, it's obvious that it's not for us.
But that's the exact same way margarine came about. That's the exact same way. When they were making it, they could not put this in the factories because that was a waste product. So
Okay.
they had to find a way to market it. This was post World War II. So they needed to find a way to market it to be like, this is a healthy alternative.
Indeed. Because I think that the reason why we consume so much dairy, milk, etc., is obviously because we have completely disconnected of what that cow's milk actually is. We believe it's like a natural food, and even worse, believe that it's necessary for calcium, which is a big fallacy, and I'll explain later. But let's remind ourselves that every single species milk is perfectly made for that particular newborn that is for that species. So for a baby calf, you have cow's milk. And what's interesting about cow's milk and human's milk is that in terms of the total solids, it's actually the same. So people who might not look at it specifically, like, oh, it's the same, I can have it. But when you look into it and you actually look at the protein value, the sugar value, you see why this is so differently made and why we cannot be switching it around with other species. So for example, just with the fat itself, cow's milk is saturated fat and human milk is unsaturated fat. That's why you can churn and create butter, create yogurt, and create milk, but you cannot do that with human milk, even if you tried. So again, we're already going into a type of fat that we do not need for our health. That's one big thing. And then the other one is that cow's milk has 1 times more protein than human's milk, and human's milk has 1.5 times more sugar than cow's milk. And the reason is a baby calf will grow within 3 years to its adult size, right? So it needs a lot more protein to go from year 1 to year 3, from 75 pounds to 1,000 pounds.
Exactly.
We as humans grow to our
Don't need that.
Yeah, we grow to our full adult stage for 18 years of our life. We do not need that so much protein to develop, because these proteins are very pro-stimulatory. What happens when we put that in our bodies as babies it grows everything else that we don't want. So babies who had, for example, grown up with cow's milk have higher rates of colon cancer, higher rates of breast cancer, higher rates of prostate cancer, cardiovascular disease. And we see that from like little tiny babies having a really higher risk for these diseases just because they were exposed to a milk that wasn't made to grow them.
So we have a question right now from Holistic Mama, okay? She's asking, how about organic goat's cheese and goat's milk?
Yeah, I think that we also like to fool ourselves. Okay, cow's milk is not good. What other mammal can we go for? It's the same thing. Even if research does show that there's less, because cow's milk is really, really toxic for babies. And when we switch it up to goat's milk, we see less of a reaction, but the toxicity is still there. It's just, think about it like this way. If I gave you a glass of water and told you hydrate yourself, but I put poison in that water, you wouldn't drink it, of course, because it was poisoned. And cow's milk and goat's milk is all the same thing. Yes, it could have protein. Yes, it could have calcium, but it's poisoned. You don't want that source. Go for a better source of calcium. Go for a better source of protein. It's really simple.
Beautiful. Okay, so you were talking about how the China study really changed your life.
Yeah.
And after reading this book, you quit dairy right away?
Right away. Oh, I quit dairy right away. And guess what? I had genetic asthma since I was born. I quit dairy. That was the first thing I did. I literally just quit dairy, nothing else. My lifestyle was the same. Still eating shrimp, still eating fish, meat, all of that. I quit dairy. Asthma was gone.
Wow.
So my asthma was fully induced by dairy, and so was my my cystic acne. I had cysts in my ovaries. All of that was induced by dairy, because what is dairy really? It's a bunch of hormones from a pregnant cow. And once you put that in your body, you mess up with your whole hormonal system. Your hormonal system is doing what? Is managing your ovaries, is managing all of your sexual hormones, your thyroid. So all of those things get messed up. And then again, we get consequences like cystic acne or acne, asthma, other skin problems, cancers that are related to hormones like ovary, mammary, prostate cancer. So all of those things. That was the biggest thing for me, was there.
And it's highly inflammatory. It's one of the most inflammatory things you could ever introduce into your body.
Absolutely. It's pro-inflammatory, pro-stimulatory, like it just grows. Oh, again, IGF-1. IGF-1 is one of the biggest things that it's in milk.
Yeah.
It's there for a reason, to grow that baby really, really fast.
Mm-hmm.
So think of what that does in your body.
Okay, we have another question from Sue. Are you saying no milk at all in any mammal?
For us, no. Like, what you need is your mother's milk for the first up to 3 or 4 years. You can have milk up to 3 or 4 years. I know it's not something that society does, because we're like, you wean off after 1 year, but you can continue for 2 more years until the child is around 3. So what you need is a person like your mother's milk, and that's it. You have all the calcium you need for the first 3 years of your life there. You have all the protein that you need, all the fat that you need, all the sugar. What I was saying about the sugar is really important. So again, human's milk has 1.5 times more sugar than cow's milk. And what is that sugar there? Because proportionally, our brain is much bigger than the cow's brain. Proportionally, by the way. I'm not talking about actual size, proportion to our body. What is the brain's like fuel? What is it use to metabolize, to grow? Sugar, the glucose, right? So we need a lot of that when they're first growing, and cow's milk doesn't have enough of that. So you're literally starving a child's brain. You're giving it cow's milk. It doesn't have enough to support the growth of their brains. So it's a big thing to consider.
Okay, so I want to go into something. Okay, yeah. So my kids, right? I have 2 kids. I have a 12-year-old and I have a 7-year-old, right? And I'm very involved in their schools, right? So since they're in kindergarten, I always come to school during lunch. I always come to school during lunch because I want to see what's going on. I want to see what they're eating and everything, right? So this is what I've done for the past like many years, okay? So listen to this. So I'm in the school, and you have a water container and you have a milk container, and I fought and fought and fought and fought, and finally the last, I think, 4 years they brought in soy milk.
Okay. And
Okay,
then
the last 4 years. So now we have a soy container, we have a cow, and then we have the water. So every time I go around, so I'm helping the kids pour the milk, right? So I go around and I'm asking them, I'm like, okay, what would you guys like? How can I help you? And they're like, can we have some milk? And I'm like, okay, which one would you like? Okay. And then they're like, regular. And I'm like,
what is regular?
yeah. So I played dumb and I'm like, what's regular? And they're like, regular milk. I'm like, oh, you mean cow's milk? I say it. So I want them to say it. I don't know if parents who are listening now they know, and they're upset with me, but I make them say it because I find kids don't even know where it comes from, right?
Yes. It's a big thing that we need to include in. I don't have children. I'm just saying it from a perspective, an outside perspective. It's important that we know the source of everything we eat. And I mean everything, from our vegetables to our fruits to whatever supplements you get. You have to know where does it actually come from, the source. And the same thing goes with your milk. Where is it coming from? It's coming from a cow. It's not coming from a supermarket. It's not coming from a package. It's coming from a cow that is supposed to be for a baby calf, not for a baby human. So it's important that they understand that.
Exactly. So once I say, you mean cow's milk? And then they're like, no, not cow's milk. You see them. These are little kids, like 5-year-olds. They're like, no, I'm like, do you want soy milk? And they're like, yes, soy milk. And I'm like, good. So by the end of lunch, they're all having soy milk, right? You only have a couple of them who will say cow's milk. So now I'm putting the association with them. And you know what you were talking about, the brain being deprived, you can see it right away. The kids who are addicted to dairy, their brains are deprived. These are the kids who are going to turn out to have ADHD, learning disabilities, some type of disabilities, because their brain's not getting the nutrient that it needs to grow.
Absolutely. And even the calcium situation, right? Let's go into that.
Let's go with that.
So again, this might be shocking to the people who are listening right now, but there has never been actual evidence to support the claims that we need to drink milk for calcium. It's been more of a marketing strategy. Again, milk, the milk mustache, dairy, what is the other slogan? Milk
a body good.
Yeah. So we see this our entire lives. We have the same behavior as the previous generation who has taught the same things. So we just assume it as right, but it doesn't mean that something you've done your entire life is right, because you've just been told that this is how it's supposed to be. So the most powerful thing is obviously go check for yourself, inform yourself. Awareness comes first. But when it comes to calcium itself, even in nature, any mammal does not grow their bones from drinking the milk of their moms. Yes, they have that first 3 years to support, bone formation, but it's much later in life when they're forming their huge antlers, for example, which are way heavier than us as a full-on skeleton, is through eating the plants, the vegetation. They comes from greens, and it's the same thing for us. The best source of calcium for us is from greens. It's from seeds. It's from nuts. There's a lot more foods that have higher amounts of calcium, bioavailable calcium, than in dairy. And why? Because we forget that for your bones to form, it's not just calcium. It's vitamin D, vitamin K. It's other things. And where does all of these things come together? In plants. You don't get all of these things coming from milk from a cow. And you need all of these other, coactive molecules to work together to be able to form and support bone formation and bone, just make them stable. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So Holistic Mama asks, I would love to hear your perspective on soy milk, as it can be controversial. Some say it's good, others says it's bad.
Right. It is the last milk that I advise, just because even if here's the thing. The problem with most foods right now is that they have been hybridized to the point that we have no idea what they're doing anymore. So the estrogenic effect, the phytoestrogenic effect from soy, that theoretically shouldn't be affecting us, could do that in your body just because these soybeans have been hybridized to the point that it has like enhanced this capability of the phytoestrogens. So if you are scared of it, if you think that your health is at a point that you don't even want to try to see what soy could do to you, just use something else. There's so many things: almond milk, hemp milk, walnut milk. What else?
Flax milk.
Flax milk, amazing.
Pistachio milk. I mean, you can milk everything. Okay. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about that because soy milk, it's been transformed so much. As you were saying, it's hybridized and it's the worst milk out of all the milk alternatives.
Yes.
But if you have no choice, like at my kids' schools, all they have is soy milk. And that was a fight to get the soy milk in. Trust me, this was not easy. So for them, like they're not bringing almonds because it's a nut, right? You can't have a nut.
Or geez, yeah.
Right, exactly. And then where are they going to get it in bulk? Because then they're looking at that because they have to buy it in bulk. So if you have no choice but to use soy milk, I would suggest looking for an organic soy milk. Look for organic soy milk. It's the least of the worst.
Yes, and also
right?
Just think about it. If you go from cow's milk, which actually has estrogen that goes into your body and behaves exactly the same as the estrogen in yours, you go from loaded estrogen, loaded hormones from cow's milk to soy, which has a much less and is phyto, comes from a plant. Supposedly shouldn't harm us at all. So you are switching to a much better source. However, I can't tell you that it's not gonna do or increase or affect your estrogen levels. Yeah, I simply can't tell you that because I know for a fact that soy is not the same as it used to be.
Very well answered. I hope that answered your question, Phil, right? Because that's what you were answering.
Studies are showing that soy doesn't affect cancer, doesn't affect estrogen production. However, everyone individually, it's at its own like health state. So you can't assume that like you're gonna behave exactly the same as your friend. So if you're scared, go for that flax milk. Flax, amazing superfood. Hemp milk, so good. Actually, my favorite milk is hemp milk, and it's super. Like if you're not into milks with flavor, hemp is one of them. It's very, very neutral. So go for one of those. Try those.
You know what's been my favorite nut milk? It's been pistachio.
Oh, I've never tried.
Oh my God. I love pistachio anything. But in the milk, you smell it. Oh, it's the most delicious milk I've ever made.
Yes, it's probably is. I've never tried it, but I love the pistachio nuts. They're delicious. So again,
they're so good.
They're green as well, so it comes with its own properties.
Yes, you should actually try making your hemp milk. Here's a trick which I use to make any nut milk. If you don't have any fancy equipment, like I have an almond cow, so that has helped my life. But if you don't have that, all you can use is hemp, like nut butter. Take the nut butter and add filtered water, and that's it. You don't even have to strain. This takes the filtering away because before I had the almond cow, I would be milking those nuts all the time. And it was very time consuming.
It is. But at the same time, it's like 2-in-1. You get the milk, you get the pulp, and the pulp you can use to make cookies, like almond cookies, whatever. It gives, instead of flour, you can use already pulp from an actual almond. It's not transformed. So
exactly. And I make ricotta with the almond meal.
Oh yes, I've done that too. So good.
So good, yes.
I love ricotta made from almonds.
Okay, I'm just looking at any more questions.
I should try to make my own hemp milk. Yes, and it's the easiest to make.
And make it and tag us because we want to see your creation.
Yes. And you can add some flavor in it. You can add some vanilla. You can add some cinnamon. You can add a tiny pinch of sea salt. You can make whatever you want, really.
Nutmeg,
if you like nutmeg.
It makes such a difference. I'm telling you, to your milks, it's so subtle, but it gives something.
Yeah. I also want to, if we haven't convinced you, I'm not here to convince you. We're just here to inform you.
Yeah.
Have an open mind. Know that this is going to go against what you probably heard your entire life. But if you have an open mind and you go actually search for yourself, you see that these things that you think are true are mostly just coming from the dairy industry trying to market at you. But one of the biggest problems as well with dairy and meat, that is farm factor. There's farm factories that produce all these animals in big amounts. The problem with them is that they are contaminated with all of these possible toxins that you can think, like, again, antibiotics. They're injected huge amounts of antibiotics because they live in these horrid conditions where there's infection over infection, and the only way they can survive there and not like constantly have infections is by being injected with antibiotics. And when you drink milk, when you eat something that comes from a farm animal raised that way, you get it too. Heavy metals is a big deal in those animals too. Other toxins. I mean, again, it's knowing what's in your food and actually registering it as this is what I'm putting in my body and this is what's going to happen if I continue. That is for me the biggest impact on making a change, because once you know, how can you continue to ignore it? It's impossible. You can't say like, yes, I'm going to continue to drink milk, and yes, I do want ovarian cancer. Like, you consciously can't do that to yourself, because you love yourself first. Like, we're very selfish. We do things to live longer lives, not only for ourselves, but mainly for ourselves.
Okay, so I want to talk about sources. Okay, how many times do we see studies that they come out with a study and they're like, okay, no, milk is actually really good for you? Because I want to argue a little bit the other side. Okay, and they say milk does great for the body, it's actually really good for you, and all of these studies, oh, it's pasteurized, it's non-pasteurized, you know, all of these words. So something we need to talk about is look at the sourcing for all of this information. It's most probably the dairy industry who support, and the pharma companies that supported this study.
If they didn't request it, because what you see the most is pharma, it's dairy, it's the corn, for example, that whatever they want to prove, they go to a university. I know they want to say that they don't do that, but they go to university and tell a team, here's what I want to prove. How can you do this for me? And this is where the funding comes from. And when you read an article and it says no conflict of interest, and then you go see the funding, who funded that, and it says the dairy blah blah blah, or the meat blah blah blah, or the egg blah blah blah, just know that that's a biased study. You want to look at independent bodies. And I'm not saying that there aren't studies showing that maybe there's not such a harmful effect with independent bodies. It might be out there, but the majority show the harmful effects, and that's what the majority usually is the right way to go.
Exactly. So don't take these studies for face value. Keep going below and look at the little fine print, what it says, and who they're associated with, because I find that super, super important.
Yeah.
And let's talk about something else, because like you said, when you read the China study, you stopped dairy right away. So my story was a little different. I have to mention how addictive dairy is.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Do you want to continue, or?
I know, I feel like you want to say something.
I was about to say,
okay,
the reason why dairy is the last thing people are able to quit, there's a reason for it. There's a chemical reason for it. So casein, the 80% of protein in milk, so what you're eating in abundance when you drink milk, when you eat cheese, that protein called casein is a casomorphin. So it's in the morphine family. And morphine, what is morphine, Tas? Morphine makes you feel amazing. It binds with your brain receptors, and you're like, I'm having the best time of my life. It's a drug, right? And what does the casein do? Binds exactly to those receptors and triggers a response that you feel the best possible.
Exactly.
So when that cheese touches your tongue, that response is ready to tell you, yes, please continue. I want to continue to feel that way. So it's really hard to leave cheese because of that reason. Not because you like the taste, it's because of how it makes you feel. Obviously the taste is there, but it's primarily because of the way it works in your brain.
But you know what? That makes complete sense because so many people that I speak to and myself, when I would describe myself as like a cheese addict,
Yeah.
right? So I was craving those highs of morphine. I was on this cheese drug, okay? Basically, like I'm like all forms of cheese, all forms. I'm like the stinkiest cheese, the most ferment, whatever. I loved it, right? It
Yes.
was so hard to get rid of this, and my body. And when I speak to people and they tell me, they're like, no, 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 I need my cheese, but I need my cheese. And they
Yeah.
speak like, no joke, a drug person, like a person on drugs. I need it,
Yeah.
but I need it.
I'm gonna put in the comments a book called The Cheese Trap by Neil Bernard. An amazing book. Everyone who's addicted to cheese, please go read it. Neil Bernard. I hope I write his name right, but
So what I had to do, what was part of my journey, is that I started cutting cheese a little by little.
yeah.
Okay. So I started doing, I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm feeling horrible. Like I would be bloated. My skin was disgusting. I had bags like under my eyes. I looked like a zombie. And I thought everything was genetic because my mom had the same symptoms, headaches, skin issues, under eye circles. You know, we always, doesn't matter how much we rested and we took care of ourselves, we looked bad. We woke up never looking youthful. You know, like youthfulness, we
Yes.
never had that.
The glow.
A glow. There was
Something
no
that
glow.
you have an incredible glow.
I had to put all kinds of things on my face to glow back then, you know, to look like a light bulb, you know, and we had no idea. And I had no idea how awful I felt until I actually stopped the cheese.
Yep.
My bloating went away. And even, you know what? People would tell me, listen to this. They were like, okay, Taz, you're lactose intolerant.
Yeah.
Okay. So they were like, just go have those pills. You remember those lactose intolerant pills?
Mm-hmm. Lactase.
So the lactase, exactly. So I would have that. And then you know what happened to Maria? Nothing. I would still feel horrible. So I'm like, I must not be lactose intolerant because like this was since like high school. Okay. I would have this and feel horrible. So I'm like, it cannot be the lactose. It needs to be the enzyme or the protein that I'm allergic to. So I used to go around saying to people and friends, they're like, okay, this has dairy. And I'm like, oh, I'm allergic. This is in high school. Okay. So this is 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago. And then they're like, we have lactase for you. And I'm like, no, no, no. I'm actually protein intolerant. I would say that of the milk enzymes. And then they would say, what? What are you talking about? They're like, that's not even a thing. I'm like, no, you guys just don't understand it yet. My body is so sensitive. It can't digest the protein. Like, this is how I used to speak back then. And no one understood me.
Yeah. And still today, you're going to be misunderstood.
No, but I mean, like, now if I tell someone, you know, I can't do milk, I'm vegan, they're like, they back off, you know, they get it. They're like, okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? But if you're talking about health issues, then I know I feel people have come such a long way. They understand how it causes inflammation. I get a lot of times people speak about the goat's cheese and the goat's milk, how it's a healthier alternative. I love how you spoke about that, how any milk from an animal. So what is the best of the worst mammal milk?
I guess from what research is saying is goat's milk, but
Okay.
any milk, like you wouldn't drink milk from, just think about it. Why did you choose a cow or a goat? Why not any other animal really?
Right.
Like what's preventing you from drinking pig's milk or
Right.
cat's milk or dog's milk? Like they're all, I mean, it's all an animal really. So the choice of a cow, and for us to think that a cow is what we should go for, hasn't been your choice. So
Exactly.
no animal, no mammal is giving milk to other species. We're the only one that's doing that.
You know, I just remembered something. I have so many people who are actually giving their babies, their newborn babies, goat's milk formula.
Yeah. Because a lot of people, they can't breast milk simply just because their health, they don't fully understand why, but their health is not allowing them to breast milk. And one of the biggest reasons probably is because their full of hormones from actually drinking milk and eating cheese. But like obviously I can't really say that what I just did. But that's the one thing that most physicians will recommend, so that the infant, so that the newborn has less of a reaction. For example, when a lot of kids who start because they can't drink their mother's milk and have to go on a cow's milk, what is it called? There's a name, because they're not really drinking cow's milk. It's a formula that has
Right.
been reduced. Is
Yep.
not, but a lot of those newborns start having immediate reactions to it.
Yeah.
They start having a lot of reflux, which people think is normal. Like it's not really. Babies shouldn't have reflux at all. They shouldn't be puking out anything. And you have to think first, what are you eating? Because your baby is eating exactly the same thing through your milk. So if he's having reflux, you have to change your diet. But yeah, the goat's milk is probably the best choice for those who can't breastfeed at all. But again, you have to talk with a really good pediatrician, someone who knows a lot about this. Work with a functional doctor that knows a lot about plant-based diets, knows a lot about how to not go for a goat's milk or a cow's milk if possible. I know I can put the name, actually, I forget, but I'll put it in the comments after this is over. I'll link an Instagram account from a really good pediatrician, and she's a plant-based pediatrician. You can raise your baby vegan, by the way, and plant-based is more than proven.
I have two.
Yeah, like all of the what's the name of the actual not company, but the body that says that it's okay to have a plant-based baby, it's okay to have a vegan baby. What is it? Is the dietitian or the
dietitian's guide?
No, but the actual group behind it. Anyway, they have put out there that it's completely safe as long as you know what you're giving your baby. Like you have to make sure that he's eating enough of all the nutrients that he needs, eating enough of all the fats that he needs.
So that's super important to know. You have to make sure they're getting everything, because I have two kids fully plant-based. Like with my son, I had a fully vegan pregnancy.
Yeah.
And he came out completely vegan. You know what I mean? It's possible, and they're thriving. They're not just like, it's not survival here. This is thriving. You put them in a quality of space that they can actually thrive and live their optimal self. So Sue was asking, there is no cow protein in the formula.
Yeah,
I heard.
Yeah, I think that's what I was saying. It's very different. It's like as a I don't want to
hydrolyzed.
Yeah, I don't want to say the wrong word, but it changes the amount of protein. Obviously, we don't want that so much protein in the baby's formula. It makes it easier for the baby, but it's not ideal for them. And you see that from all the reactions they get. But it's not ideal. Just know that it's not ideal. So try to work with someone who knows about it.
So what would you suggest for a newborn?
Well, that's the thing. Like I would talk to someone who works with newborns, and it's someone who's an expert in a plant-based diet for babies.
Okay, so I'm looking, or reach out to me.
Yeah.
And so I just looked up Earth's Best Organic. Okay. And the ingredients are organic skim milk, organic corn syrup solids, and organic maltodextrin, and organic palm oil. So this is the first four ingredients.
It's disgusting.
I didn't get to everything else. I just said the first four ingredients.
I know that hemp milk, it's great for newborns apparently. So that can be a replacement, but again, you have to look at what other things do they need apart from that milk. But again, I'm not here to give any advice to any newborn moms. So please go find someone who knows what they're talking about, and I'll add the name of the pediatrician under so they can maybe contact her or work with her.
Or reach out to me. I will help you.
Yeah,
because I have great recommendations, to mimic the mom's milk, because we have great suggestions. And, this is an incredible time to talk about. This is why it's so important to detox your body from these chemicals while being pregnant, because you can do this gently while being pregnant, because the glyphosate actually goes through your umbilical cord. Okay. And you are feeding your microbiome to your baby. You are building their system with your microbiome and with all of these toxins. So if you start alkalizing your system and putting them in a good environment of no toxins of glyphosate, now the baby will probably respond to your breast milk better.
Indeed. Remember what I said 2 days ago? Babies who we now are seeing up to 250 toxins in babies before they're even born, and there should be zero, and we're seeing up to 250. So it's important that we take care of our unborn babies before they're even born. So make sure that you're detoxing and removing all possible chemicals and toxins that you could be exposed to while pregnant, because that's when the genes are going to be modified and mutated and because epigenetics is a reality, and it's what you do every day, what you eat every day, what you drink every day, how much exercise you get, how much stress management you do during your pregnancy, that actually is going to affect the first 10 or 20 years of your baby's life. So make sure that you're doing the best. For sure.
10 or 20 years. I mean, that's a long time.
Yeah, it's a really long time. So yeah, reach out to Tas. She has two beautiful, amazing, energetic, full of life, clean, no toxins in their body children. If you want some advice, I'm sure she can direct to people who know what they're talking about as well. So yeah.
Yes. So thank you all so much for being part of this amazing conversation. This was amazing. I love this. I love this topic. I feel like we need to do a little bit more of these because people don't know how to start and they need more information about this.
Yeah.
And Newfound Vegan. Wow, I like that. Welcome, Newfound Vegan.
Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for joining. We appreciate anyone who comes. And I hope that we answered most of your questions. We can do one more directed to solutions, because today we talk more about the problems. I'm more of that person, actually. I know that you're more the solution.
I'm the solution.
I'm like, I want to inform you, and Taz is like, I got it. I know what you got to do. So it's a good match, definitely.
Exactly. Because look, I always say we are bombarded with problems each and every day. Let's get to a solution, right? So I am the solution queen, I would say. So let's talk about all of these solutions. Number one, the solution, I would say, it's time to start cleansing your body. If you're pregnant, if you're thinking about being pregnant, you can start now. This is not something that will remove any nutrition from your body. This is up leveling your nutrition. This is increasing all the minerals, all the micro minerals that your body deeply needs, and removing these toxic chemicals from your body. We are bombarded with so much toxic chemicals. So if we can remove some of them, why not? Right?
Yes. So it's time to start. It's time to start any day.
It's time to start today. Any day, today. So reach out to us. We will happily get you started and present you with solutions. You know what? Even people who are trying to become pregnant, reach out to us, because usually it's because our bodies are not in the environment where it can thrive. So let's put our bodies in an environment where it can thrive.
Yep.
And detoxify these chemicals in our body. Glyphosate can do so much damage to our bodies on a cellular level that we need to get it out. And if we can help it, 74% of it to be removed from our bodies, I say why not? It's helped my life tremendously, my family's, and so many thousands of people all around us.
Yeah.
So
before we leave, I just want to say to you guys, I know that these days, particularly like the past 10 years, problems with getting pregnant have just gone up. And the biggest reason is we are exposed to more and more and more and more toxins and more hormone disruptors. Again, you need your hormone system to be in place for you to get pregnant like this really easy. And a lot of people are having troubles with it. And I have witnessed with my own eyes multiple people just detoxing, getting those chemicals out of their body, and now suddenly they can get pregnant. So it's really important, and it will change your life for the future, and even getting pregnant if you can't get pregnant.
Exactly. So I've had tons of people, like, they haven't been pregnant for years. They can't. and they've done IVF, they've done all kinds of treatments, and all they needed to do was a detox. That's all they needed to do.
Start with your lifestyle first. Do everything that you can first with your life, with your nutrition, with your sleep, with your exercise. And then if there's really something genetically that has impeded you to get pregnant or something related to that, then go to the Western medicine. Because that's when they can help you. Not before you use lifestyle medicine.
Exactly. Well, thank you all for being here, and thank you, and we really appreciate you, each and every one of you.
Hey everybody, and thank you so much for watching and being part of this community. If you haven't already, just be sure to subscribe. You're going to get weekly videos on the most important health topics and daily practices you need to be applying in your life so that you can just start thriving instead of simply surviving.